So I'm going to start and do
Okay.
the live questions. Maggie's going to ask you a couple marriage questions when I'm.
Okay.
But the first question is kind of a softball. I'm a convert to this issue. You know, came a long way to be heading a pro-life organization, that's for sure. And so the journey is very interesting, and it is instructive when you're a leader, and very helpful in terms of connecting with other people. But so my first question to you is what's your position, your exact position on restoring the right to life for unborn children? How was your position shaped, and what experience do you have in fighting that you would bring to the chairmanship? So basically, what is your position? How is it shaped in your experience?
Well, my position is I believe life begins at conception and ends at natural death. I came to that position very straightforwardly as a Roman Catholic, being raised that way, and it's been a part of my faith. I've been involved in Right to Life of Michigan for the last almost 30 years, worked with them extensively while I served in the legislature as well as a staffer. So I have a long history of involvement with respects to right to life as an issue, and again, it's a matter of faith from my perspective.
Well, that's beautiful. That's good. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Our members really love to know kind of where it came from,
Right.
and you can.
It's kind of simple for me.
I remember asking Ben Nelson was in the elevator in the Senate once, and it was when he was doing all things right and not doing big leaps off the cliff, undermining the pro-life movement, which he did unfortunately recently. But he was so good and so strong at that time, and I asked him, how did you get such flack for this in the Democratic Party? How did you come to the place? How did you take this position? He said, I never took a position. It's just who I am. Yeah,
Right.
just who I am. So.
Well, and I think, part of from my perspective is I'm a movement conservative. I mean, I've been involved in the conservative movement since my days in college. I'm one of the few people on the national committee who regularly attends CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Committee. My basis for being involved in politics is philosophical rather than political. So I'm a believer, and I think that helps with respects to being a good leader, because when you've got to make those kind of gut-wrenching decisions, oftentimes it's great to be able to have a philosophical basis rather than just making a political one.
True. When you're on camera, it all comes out.
There you go.
Sure. So as chairman then, what will you do differently than the current and past administrations when it comes to the issue of life, and how will you handle the life issue in your work there? And I mean specifically in reference to the resources of the RNC in races.
Well, it's kind of a tough question in the sense that, I mean, it's very hypothetical. I have traditionally, I guess the best way to answer that is how I've worked in the past. When I was state chairman here in Michigan for 4 years, I worked with Right to Life on a regular basis. Barb Listing, who's the president of Right to Life, and I would sit down every election year and go through who the Republican candidates were, who our nominees were going to be, where they stood on a life issue, and how we could help and get involved and coordinate. So I am very comfortable within the scope of whatever the law allows us to do to work together with all pro-life groups with respects to making sure that we support the life position, that we are active in that it is part of our platform. It is a fundamental part of what we as Republicans in general believe in. And yes, we have some Republicans who don't agree with us, but I think the overwhelming majority, and it would be true to say the supermajority of Republicans, maybe 90% or more, are all pro-life. And I think it is important for us to, that's an important part of our coalition. It's an important part of who we are as a party. I think it's an important part of who we are as a civilization as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. So my last question, then we'll move on to Maggie, is going to be a tough one, I think, for some of the potential chairmen. Sometimes we are working so hard to defend the right to life on one hand, and then sometimes our elected officials are undermining it at the same time, even when they themselves are pro-life. So that's the preface to the question. The question is, have you ever given to a pro-choice organization like Wish List or Planned Parenthood to directly or bundled checks through either of those organizations or an organization similar to theirs?
No. No.
That's the right answer. That's very clear.
Unless one of my United Way contributions made it to the wrong place.
Okay, all right. That's a little too
Other than that, I've never supported or given to any group like that.
Well, that is good. It was very helpful. I mean, Susan B. Anthony List, the reason we started is we know that the power that it puts behind candidates to have such a united front funneling checks. So to do that on the opposite side would certainly be harmful. So thank you for.
Well, I have some good friends on the Susan B. Anthony list and who've been very active in this process. So I'm very happy to be a good supporter and friend.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Now on to marriage.